Warm greetings. Welcome to today's session on understanding the nuances of being women in architecture. It is in the larger purview of being in the diverse fields of the built environment this session is organized. The session is conducted with the support of Eco Development and Research Cell, a not-for-profit initiative of the Environmental Design Consultants, Ahmedabad. My name is Mansee Bal Bhargava, and I will be the host for the discussion today. I'm glad to start this conversation with women engaging in the practice and pedagogy of the built environment. The aim is to particularly celebrate the role of women in shaping the built environment in various ways. The objective is to understand and document their biographical journey from practice, research, and education, especially those who started with architectural background as their primary education. Through the study, the intention is to acknowledge the contribution of women in the profession, bring forth the critical points that need to be addressed at individual, institutional, and collective level, that what makes or breaks or tweaks the career of women architects in the country. The study on women in architecture is a call to action for both men and women to realize the need for equitable architectural practice and pedagogy, I must add to that, in order to advance towards a better society. And it's based on the presumption that the profession is heavily patriarchal. The conversation is also aimed to share the worries and the wisdom by the woman, for the woman, of the woman in the built environment. In here, we hope to learn through the endeavors of the woman in a regular, disciplined manner, like a master class. Today, we have Monolita Chatterjee, and I look forward to learning about her journey of life. And I'm going to first take her permission to record this session as well as going live. And eventually, as part of the research, we are also going to document it through a manuscript and come out with a coffee table book. So, Monolita, thank you so much for taking out time for us. It has been long that I'm going after your life to give us some time.
I'm so sorry that it took me such a long time to get back to you.
Thank you so much, Monolita. And eventually you have found time for us, and that's most important for me, because I understand that we have really, all of us have this roller coaster ride, and that's called life. And I think that's what we are trying to capture here. So I hope you're fine that we are recording this, and eventually we are going to write a lighter version of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much. Yeah. So are you okay that I start with my small questions, which I have? Very simple ones.
Absolutely. Please go ahead.
Okay. So now I'm going to take you back to some years ago when you were in high school, and you know this whole family drama goes in, what to do after high school, where to join and all. How did you land up in architecture?
Okay, so I come from a family where there were no architects before me.
Mm-hmm.
So when I told my parents that that's the line I wanted to go to, because I was good with the science, technical subjects, all of that. Okay, and so the normal thing is that you get into science and then you try for engineering or medical. And I was very sure I didn't want to go for medical, at least. And engineering was also a bit too dry and boring for me, while I was good with arts too. I enjoyed the social sciences, history, all of that. I personally think history was always one of my favorite subjects back in school. And I wanted to do something which would involve all of these together. And you know how like little capsules are school curriculum are, right? That once you get into the science stream, you just completely lose touch with all the art subjects.
In our time, doctor and engineer, and rest is okay.
Yeah. So, I was fine, like I was excelling in all of that, but that was definitely not what I wanted to do for my life. And I told my parents that, well, this is what it is, and I would like to try out architecture, thinking architecture was kind of a safe space where, you know, it's not purely like, I'm not telling them I'm going to arts and all, which would probably make them, you know, like commit suicide or something like that.
Yeah, but parents are quite worried about going in arts. I don't know why.
Yeah, because they feel that we will not be earning enough or something like that. I don't know, some this thing, drama is there in their heads. But the thing was, my mother was very supportive about me thinking of architecture. And I also realized that it was not just a safe choice, it was also something I was quite finding quite interesting, like built forms, cities, spaces, the three-dimensional things always kind of interested me. So it was not like just, okay, I don't want to do engineering, what is the closest to that? That was not really the thing.
Yes.
I also had a good luck of having a family friend whose daughter, very close family friend who we knew very well, their daughter studying in School of Planning and Architecture in New Delhi. And so I actually went there with her when I was, I think, in my class 11 standard or something. And I just fell in love with the vibe of the place, the way the different things that they were doing. There were all these sculptures out in the open and everything. You know, something about it really appealed to me. And I came back and I talked to my dad, and my dad was like, so he gave me a very simple test. He said, see, I don't know any famous architect. I know a lot of famous this, that, and the other, but I don't know of any famous architect. So why don't you go back and tell me 5 names which I will recognize? So I actually went back and did that homework and came back and gave him a little presentation on, Corbusier, Charles Corbusier and all. And then he recognized those names because Chandigarh and, like that. So then he was like, okay, fine. And then he did take the effort. My mother was very supportive always. She felt that, yes, this was something that I would be good at. She was also at the same time telling me, okay, science stream is fine, but why don't you also go take some art lessons and all, because that is going to help you to get into architecture. And my dad actually made the effort to come for career counseling stuff in school with me to ask. Yeah, sure. Yeah, so my dad also came to these career counseling things, and he was like, okay, so she wants to do architecture. What do you guys think, to my teachers and all? And so somehow it kind of worked out. And but then by that time, I had kind of set my mind that it is going to be SPA only. Okay, so I didn't even work very hard for all the other regional engineering colleges because I had the sneaking fear that if I do well in one of those, and by chance I don't get allotment in architecture, I'm going to get pushed into other engineering, which I really didn't want to do. So fortunately, SPA did happen. I got through the merit ranking, and so yeah, that's what it was. I think my parents were a little bewildered. Both of them came from very science kind of fields, so they were a little bewildered at what I was doing, but they were not unduly non-supportive. They did give me that space to kind of decide, despite them scrutinizing what I'm choosing, which I think is a parent's right. I mean, they want to ensure that you're taking the right decision and not going on a whim, which we as parents also do the same thing, right? So I think that was fine. So they were okay with it. So not too bad a journey.
Yeah. So did you travel from A to B place, or are you from Delhi? Or
No. I was in Kolkata. I was studying. I did my schooling in Kolkata. My parents' house is in Kolkata. So yes, I did travel to Delhi to study.
That also adds to their anxiety, no? So
no, I think our parents were probably far cooler that way, because I went all by myself to Delhi and they were fine with it. They didn't worry that much. Probably there was not so much information about how dangerous the world is. I don't know what it is, but I felt they always were pretty, they were pretty cool about all of that. They didn't really handhold me about everything. They didn't insist that, oh no, you have to do things in this manner. I just went. They were fine with it.
Yeah. So as you know, we are trying to understand being a woman or in early education time, being a girl in the profession. I would like to understand from you, how was it in your bachelor's time? And, especially looking at, did you ever realize that it's going to be different to be a girl in the field or woman in the field?
No, we didn't.
During the college days, we don't feel that.
Also, because our batch was one of those batches which had a lot of girls. Okay, I think if not 50%, almost 50% girls. And we were also a really loud bunch of girls. Okay?
Yeah, I was about to add that, because
Yeah.
being girl in the field, and we have been always loud in the
Yeah,
classrooms.
we were a bunch who were very loud, who were very assertive, who were fairly confident about what we were doing. We were many of this group of people were actually top of the class. So we didn't really realize that the outside world is very different. And
Very different.
I do not know how the other architectural colleges are. But SP is like this glass bubble, where you are you get snuck into this feeling of equality, which is just a kind of a smoke screen. And you need to just step out and go into career and marriage, and immediately all those beautiful illusions shatter. But yeah, and nobody tells us. Nobody tells us.
Yeah, that's what the teachers are also, in a good sense, that they always, gave us education in more gender balanced way. They really never raised this issue as compared to now.
Mansee, I think it's not gender balanced. I think there is a gender blindness, because we actually I remember being in the editorial board in second year. And we were doing a piece on women in architecture.
Wow, that is like, which year was it?
Yeah. But we just wanted to feel it out. Like, how does it feel? And we had all these women teachers who were all like women we looked up to. They were strong, confident women, came across with a lot of verb and everything. So we actually went to them and we wanted to interview some of them. And we did. We started the interviews and they were all like, oh no, actually we are in a very gentle profession. Gender disbalance exists in other fields. It doesn't exist in architecture, which was, I'm sorry to say, complete lies.
Absolutely.
I don't know what kind of blindness they were living with. Either, there is a sense amongst very liberal people that inequities do not exist. It could be just that. It could be very, very insulated experiences that they have gone through where they have not faced the inequity. But it also shows a huge amount of blindness, which I'm sure if they looked around, they would have seen,
So, I think you gave me a very good way to look at things, because I always felt that, the teachers were not discussing gender because they really wanted to see all of us as equals. That's one way of looking at it. And I have been thinking in those lines. But when you say this, I also realize it now, because when I set up gender cell in 2 architecture schools during my more engagement in architecture education, it was the first time the gender cell was getting introduced in those schools. And we never had gender cell when I was studying, to take the questions and concerns of girls in the school. So basically in our time, there were no concerns about girls being girls.
We've never discussed, and the thing is, Mansee, here, what I feel, and that is probably the learnings of my work afterwards, is that equality is not sameness.
Yes.
Okay. Equality comes from equity. Equity comes from equal opportunities, equal resources. Okay. And each of us stand at different places in our life where our individual access to opportunities and resources are different because of where we stand. Okay. I consider myself an extremely privileged woman amongst a lot of other women, right?
To be honest, we are.
No, I'm, that's the first thing that you must do to yourself. You must learn to see your own privileges, because without that, you are always assuming that your ecosystem is what exists for other people,
which
is not true. Okay, which is not. And having said that, even within those privileges, the kind of barriers that we as women face in perceptions, in understandings, in how, forget about going out into practice. I think this lack of gender lens within our pedagogy is so harmful. because we never, as architects, as we are getting trained, we never really understand that women and men use spaces differently. They need
And
spaces
that also is another
yeah,
impact on.
we never actually analyze traditional architecture. We only go, oh my God, they did such great climate response. They did such great context response. Look at their use of materiality. Lovely, lovely, lovely. We do not examine them as tools for discrimination, as tools for misogyny, as tools for casteism. We don't look at any of those things, you know? And
Absolutely.
that entire narrative missing from architecture makes us very elitist.
Yes.
Okay,
And when we
because
especially talk about it, it becomes quite
yeah,
hypocritical also from our side, to be
yeah.
honest.
Because we wear that hat of being liberal, no? So we
Mm,
must talk about all the things. We must actually pretend that we understand the realities of many other people who have less than us, but we don't because we've never been trained. You know, like social sciences itself in our colleges, in architecture colleges, I think now we are doing a little better pedagogically. I do not know, but at least I think teachers are also probably a little more sensitized. So
yes,
these
that's
conversations do come up. At our time, nothing. When
nothing.
did we do casteist analysis of a Nambudiri illam? We never
No.
did.
And even like subjects like, humanities, psychology,
Yeah,
sociology, we were not taught at all.
we had in SP, we had sociology.
Not with us.
Okay,
I mean, yes,
but
on paper, there were subjects, by the way.
exactly, but how they are taught, that's what I mean. That social sciences are a major vehicle to interrogate social inequities.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
that is not taught to people who are being trained to create spaces
For
for
the
the
society.
human society. I think it
Yes.
is very, very unfair because we
Okay.
go out thinking that, oh my God, we know everything about
We go
spatial
as
design.
creators, actually. We go
Yeah,
as creators.
yes, and we create spaces for lives.
Yes,
Your human lives to play out when we know so little about human lives.
yes,
And you will
absolutely.
see this in the way we approach every design. We approach design from that elitist point of view. I mean,
Absolutely.
today, this is a conversation I'm having with every student every time that whenever they're designing for thesis, they're doing this whole center for whatever, whatever. And I'm like,
Yes.
how are you designing it for the sweeper woman?
Uh,
How are you designing it for the garbage collector? Because
hmm.
we do not even see
See
them
them
as people.
exist. Yes, exist.
They're all non-people to us. And because this conversation has not happened for us,
Hmm. I think,
we all come from a very privileged background. We go
yes,
into a whole pedagogy which does
yes.
not challenge those privileges. So I mean, that those blindnesses are very, very common. I mean, I have had
But you actually, we
conversations with
submit. We submit
very,
to what is going on.
yeah, and I have had conversations with very senior architects who are very respected architects and who have I respect them for the sensitivity they bring to the profession,
Mhm.
but then they still do not see the problem that when we don't have pavements on the street, it is a class and gender action. They don't
Absolutely.
see that. They see it as, oh, if you would put pavement, then the width for the vehicle would reduce. I mean, like, yes, so cars will have to go slowly. So how does it matter? Because at the end of the day, that pavement is used by 90% of the society, whereas the 10% that you
By
belong
the
to, you drive a car and you want the entire width of the road, 100% of it for yourself. You don't even leave the side which has not been made into a pavement for them, because you usually ride over those also in case you're in a hurry. So
yes,
that is the 10%
very
us
common.
privileged lot who
Mm.
have gotten everything. We have such huge sense of entitlement. We come from an extremely feudal society which has not exited feudalism at any level in our heads, and we think that this is our right. Our right is to grab every
And this
inch.
is right in the society also.
Yeah,
We think that this is
absolutely.
normal. This is normal.
Yeah,
So doing
absolutely.
something for the other half, I will say, other major of the city or
It's the
society.
majority. It's not half. It's the
Yeah,
majority.
other, yes, the other majority. I always get that book title from Doshi and the other half thing. But you pointed this out very well. But I'm curious again because it's your life journey. When did you realize, probably towards the end of your degree or when you were entering the profession, When was it that it really hit you that, oh, it's different to be a woman in the field? When was it in your career? And how did you handle that? What did you do after your graduation? How did you start your professional life?
I started working immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I think from the very beginning,
Mm-hmm.
it's very evident, in the way you are treated at sites, in the way contractors treat you, in the way you have to really struggle to make your point. And you don't know anything. You're also learning.
Yes.
And that's fine. I had no problems learning. I was very open to the fact that I knew nothing. And I had to, like when you exit college, you're like just absolutely a baby.
Blank slate, actually.
Yeah. So I had no issues with that. So as it is, you're dealing with that lack of confidence, that whole learning curve. But you're also dealing with, oh, she's a woman.
Another layer.
Yeah, and she doesn't know anything. And it continued for a very long time. So it's not like just what you face as a fresher. It goes
for a long,
on
long time.
for the rest of your life. I think it's really stopped majorly mattering for me maybe in the last 5 years. And I've been in the profession now for 25 years. So
Is
I
it that
mean,
the
and
people have changed their perception, or you give damn
no,
fit?
you have just developed an alligator skin. And yeah, people have changed their perception because
Both.
you prove yourself
Hmm.
100 times over than the man next to you,
Yes, absolutely. That's
right?
another
So
issue, by the way.
yeah, yeah. So you work harder than everybody else. You prove that you are better than everybody else to be taken equally, not to be taken as better, to be taken equally.
Yes.
And over a period of time, but it should not be so hard. I mean, it's
That's
just
the
so
point we wish
hard.
to really
Yeah,
call for.
for women to have, I always look at it from this point of view, that for women to have a practice which is equal in size to a man, in terms of the quantum of work, in terms of the turnover, in terms of the fees, in terms of being in a sustainable economic sense where you can actually call the shots. It is, I mean, it's literally like a few of us who breaks into it. And that
Absolutely.
itself tells you that it's just so hard that most women fall by the wayside, not because they're any less equal, but just because
They give
everybody
up
doesn't
at
have
some
that
point.
fight. You don't have to fight every day of your life to gain acknowledgement, gain recognition, gain just, value towards your words that you're saying something and it has equal value as the man next to you. It's just too crazy.
Yeah, I think it is there in many profession also, but just because we are focusing in our profession, there are certain nuances of it, like I mean, we can also look at the other side of it, especially after some years when we think that okay, we can deal with all kinds of creatures around to convey our point. I would like to understand from you situations where you may have realized that. It was not good to be a woman in this setup, and they are just screwing up the situation. And also the other way around. It is better to be woman in this situation. So, would you like to express some of your?
It happens both ways, and I'm fortunate to have male partners. Okay, so we make very pragmatic decisions in terms of, okay, these guys are misogynists, they are not okay dealing with women, so you take the lead.
And other
So you
stakeholders.
take not just clients, it could be clients, it could be
Others,
contractors.
all
And contractors
stakeholders.
also can be very difficult sometimes. So you kind of, palm it off. Okay, this works better if you take the lead. And then there are other places where somehow the response, again, from client or contractor or staff or whatever, is better because you are a woman. And then those are things that I should take a lead. I mean, we do these very conscious, performative, literally Judith Butler type performative actions and decisions.
Analyzing your clients, and stakeholders. Sorry.
Yeah. We have to do that because we can't be always just fighting perceptions. We also want a certain comfort level when we are working, certain like space to be able to do the work. So that's something we do a lot actually between ourselves, between like the three of us.
So you learned the traits while working on it, how to deal with this.
Yeah, I used to get very upset before. Initially, when I was young, and say suppose I was.
By the way, for many years, I can relate with it so much. For so many years, I just remained bhabhi and sitting at the lobby and the whole discussion going on in the meeting room, the drawings which I have made. And
yeah, so exactly. So I used to get angry at one point of time. Now nobody makes the mistake of thinking of me as the bhabhi. But but the cadence of what you're saying, how they accept it, how much more easily somebody will accept it if it is said by a man versus a woman, those things still play.
It's still.
I have stopped getting angry about it. I have stopped accepting it as not accepting, but kind of, like joking about it and saying that I can't be bothered with it anymore. And I have proven a lot of myself. Today I have a fair amount of practice, a big enough practice, which is my practice, which are projects which come to me because of my standing in the profession and all that. So, and it's the kind of work I like to do. There are clients who have a certain level of respect for me. So all of that, also, I think all that has also reduced a lot.
And it takes time.
Yeah, it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of time. And as I said, I just don't see why it should be so hard.
Yes.
And it's just not fair for it to be so hard. But I mean, there has been constantly those situations before where, I'd go to site with my staff and the contractor would be talking to my staff because he's a guy. And he feels very embarrassed because I'm his boss.
Ma'am.
Right? So he's like, ma'am, and the contractor doesn't know what's happening. So I kind of, beyond the point, I started finding it very funny. Okay, so I guess that was a kind of an antidote where it was more like, okay, I mean, like, this is happening again, chalo, let's laugh about it. I mean, but I'm also reached a point in my life where I don't have to really measure what I say. I can speak out when I see, but today I speak out more for others because I feel that like I have the power to be able to speak out, and that might make it easier for 10 other women who who are still not at that position where they can speak out. So while I think I don't need that much of support anymore, I have also reached a place where I can be the unpopular person to say the uncomfortable truth.
I can so much relate.
So yeah, but my sadness in all of this is that despite so many of us having fought so hard for that space, and every generation, I think the number of women are increasing, the number of women willing to do that fight so that they don't sacrifice their career or something is increasing. But that gets mistaken as oh, you have equality, what are you guys talking about?
Yes.
See, all these women work. All these women are doing everything. See, that man is carrying the children. What are you guys complaining about? But these inequities remain. They remain, maybe not. And so they might even become more difficult to tackle because it is a little more nuanced, a little more camouflaged, a little more not there out in the open, in obvious form. So it becomes even more like I talk to a lot of the young women in the profession. They all talk about this unending burden of domestic duties, which somehow all of them are having to, spearhead. No matter how much of work they're doing outside their homes, still when they come back home, they are so-called the captain of the ship. And they're like, I don't want to be, and I totally get that none of us actually wanted to be captain of that ship, right?
We all are in that kind of ship. But
Yeah, no, I have abdicated that responsibility already. I am not captain of any ship anymore. But that's the
See,
point. I mean, so
that-
it doesn't change. And Mansee, it's not, I think it's also what's valorized within our architecture. You know? From the time we're in college, we are taught, oh, this is such a vocation that you have to work 24/7. Now, women can't afford to work 24/7 because they have children to go back to. And
they
somehow
have
that
to
makes
return
them,
before night. They have to return home before night. Otherwise, there's
yeah,
a problem of character.
yeah.
We have to.
I mean, even if I leave that aside, they still have mouths to feed when they get back home. You know, I'm like, okay, fine, they don't have to deal with all of that, but they still have young kids.
Yes.
Okay, the ease with which a man sets up a meeting at 8 o'clock in the evening versus a woman tells the whole story, right? Yeah, so these are there. They are not going away despite however many women are fighting it. And what is happening is that today the narrative has become ki, Are Baba, what are you guys complaining about?
And I think we are making the situation worse because we are the loud mouth in the field. So I don't know.
And we are fighting hard. We are getting the space because we fought so hard. I feel I'm bloodied and bruised for the amount of fighting I've had to do.
Yeah.
And do I want that for my daughter? No way.
No,
I don't want her life to be so hard. You know? And like this whole, like the way the profession is thought of, the way the profession is celebrated. You know what gets celebrated? The master architect.
Yeah.
There's a problem with that word itself.
Word
you know?
itself.
because no master architect does the whole work themselves. I mean, they have a whole team, right? Architecture, more than any other profession, is a team profession.
So the architecture should be celebrated, not the architect alone per se.
Yeah, and it should be the team. And even today, any short list of architects that and this is a conversation which just goes on and on and on, where, oh, we can't find the women. Are Baba, you have to work hard to find the women, because for years and years, women have been told
we have the repository. You have it, I have it.
Yeah. So what happens is, like, even, and you will see this everywhere, that if you have a couple, mostly it would be the man coming out, giving all the talks, being talked about as the master architect.
Yes. The person getting the check, by the way.
Yeah, all the visible roles will be filled by the man, even if it's a couple. So, yes.
The office is run by the way, other woman.
Yeah. Well, the entire office actually is being run by the women. And this is so common.
Many of them, even till date, and many well-known men architects.
Yeah. No, I mean, well or not well known, it is a very common phenomenon, who is in the limelight. So what happens also is that visibly you don't see the women in architecture, which becomes a deterrent for the new woman in architecture, who thinks, Are Baba, maybe, because it is so bloody difficult, there is no women, so I might as well also take a back seat, go and, have babies and all, because finally that is my role. It's a constant cycle, right? I mean, no matter what, when somehow in 99 cases out of 100, and I happen to be that one case outside which I had to really fight for, when the child asks for food, the person who gets up is the woman. So these are, and I know that journey, because as I said, I abdicated those responsibilities. I'm like, no, I'm not the only parent. I'm not the only this thing. And if you can ask what's for dinner, I can ask what's for dinner too. But these are constant battles, which...
Yes, and you have to fight it almost
every day. And the problem is, Mansee, that the society doesn't allow us to think that that's wrong. Right? The socialization is so strong, so strong in our heads, that to actually think that, no, you don't have to be responsible for feeding your child, is some kind of a huge guilt that most women carry, right? They can't even accept that.
And also it is imposed upon by even the family members, the closest of the people.
Even if it is not overtly imposed upon. It is imposed upon in many passive ways, in
And
many ways that we are taught to seek approval always. We're all like that. We've been brought up, women have been brought up to seek approval all their lives, every one of us.
you
And
remind me of my mother who used to tell me when I was a child and I always wanted to be president of India for God reason, God knows what, why. And she will always tell me, even if you become president of the country, you have to cook for your house and family. So that was the tagline which she used to carry. And
yeah.
it's not that I wanted to escape those responsibilities, it's just that she was reminding me of my role all the time.
Mhm.
Think,
So I was very fortunate that way, I would say. My mother was a firebrand 70s feminist. So
very good.
though she actually had to do all of this. I mean, she was a nuclear physicist. But yes, for her, when she came back, she had to take the central role in, the domestic, all the domestic
Mm.
stuff. And she resented that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I don't remember having a very quiet childhood. I remember it being fairly turbulent because I saw my mother fighting through all of that.
Yes.
While as a child it is quite discordant, but I mean, as I got married, as I started having the same battles, even at that time also, I remember telling my mother that how come, both of you come back home from work and you go straight to the kitchen while Baba goes and sits with his newspaper. So those kind of inequities were visible to me even at that time. On the other side, I must also tell you that my father was probably of that time, I would call him a very feminist man
Feminist.
because he also, when my mother was not around, used to take a lot of lead in childcare. So I do remember him having a very strong, visible role in our growing up. So it was not like that hands-off father kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing was he was also very keen on giving us girls a lot of freedom. So while he would probably allow my mother to take the lead in the domestic thing, which is also, I agree, not fair. But on the other hand, when it came to us girls, he was very, positive about it. And like I grew up hearing the other things. When I got married and I went to my in-laws' house, my parents actually, before I went, told me something which I think most Indian girls never hear. They said, don't jump into the kitchen on the very first day.
Okay.
Okay. So that kind of unconventional bringing up did help me in my head to actually say, no, these are not just my stuff. I can choose. Nobody has died and made me leader of this whole little four walls. No way. I am again very privileged to have a very supportive, not just a very supportive, supportive is a very wrong word, I would say, and somebody who believes in equality kind of a partner, who, despite all of us having that very patriarchal, socializing as we grow up, was able to see the inequities over a period of time as I flagged them. It needed to be flagged.
Yes, I think
Which is something I always tell all younger women, all women, in fact, that don't expect life to be just, everybody understanding everything. You need to point out.
yes.
And yes, those
think
pointing outs might not be, might not be frictionless. You should be, ready for some friction if something is dear to you. But that happens in all your life, right? If you are practicing and you're always being looked over because you're a woman, you need to put your foot down and say, hey, I'm doing good work. You need to recognize me. Yes. Should it be, again, going back to that conversation, should it be so hard? No, absolutely not.
Yeah,
In a
but
beautiful,
like this, so we have to fight.
yeah, I hope not. I wish not. I'm so tired of fighting.
We would like to live that day, but I'm going to
Yeah.
come to that question
Yeah.
towards the end. But I would like to understand from you, because we talked a little bit about the family. What is, in your opinion, like we know many architects are couple, and we had briefly touched upon it. How is it to have a partner from the same profession and not from the same profession? Does it make a difference in the way woman is going to go out and do her engagement in the built environment? How was it in your case, and how it is right now in your case?
See, yeah, again, see, I always used to think that having your partner in the same profession gives a lot of understanding and knowledge, okay, which was how it was for me. Okay, and it continues to be like that for me. We are, though we have other partners, but we both are also we all are part of the same firm. We are all equal partners. And the fact that we both work together, though on separate projects mostly, other than really big projects where we collaborate together, we have our own portfolios, our own clients. But yes, I feel that there is a little bit more understanding in terms of the timings and in terms of the flexibility that you need, and in terms of just, like adjusting each other around the child schedules or the domestic care schedules and all. I mean, we have since our daughter was born 19 years back, we've been like constantly, okay, you do site visit, I'll stay at home, and I'll do site visit and you stay at home, and all that kind of things.
Understanding,
huh? Yeah. So, but that was possible because of yes, an architect being from the same profession to a certain extent, I feel, but also I think based on us as individuals.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay? Yeah, because I have seen several couple architects where this understanding does not exist.
Yes,
Okay?
Yeah.
While I have seen other families with other professions where this understanding again exists. So I do not now believe, though I think the reality is, like, for example, architecture is such a curious profession. There are such, such novel shit, I don't have any other word to say this, that happens within this profession, which I don't even know how you explain it to another person. So it does help when you can actually share that, and you can actually have the other person really get what you're saying. So from that point, yes, it makes a lot. I mean, like you might be having a really bad day because of some nonsense that has happened at site, which is completely out of your control, or your client is simply being totally unreasonable about something. All of that, right? And these are, I can't even explain it to a non-architect, right?
Yeah,
so you might just be in a really bad
vocabulary.
Yeah, so you might just be in a really bad mood because you've had a really bad day based on something like this.
And I think now with so many years, we also understand if something, we can understand from the gesture and the face ki kuch gadbad hai.
Yeah, so that comfort, definitely. The comfort of understanding how sites work and how stressful, project endings are, and the kind of weird times that you have to keep sometimes, and the traveling you have to do. I mean, traveling is such an integral part of architectural profession, right? So the amount of traveling you have to do, all of that understanding, but that understanding goes both ways. I'm also understanding his needs, he's understanding mine. But as I said, I see many architect couples within whom that understanding is not there. And I'm seeing them, the women, taking on all those additional burdens because the man is not supportive, and he is just doing his career and not really doing his part in the domestic front. So then
I wanted to start this research I'm just sharing with you, almost 28 years ago, when I used to think that being in the same profession is going to be wonderful to, set up your practice and all. But when I met some of our legend architects in Ahmedabad, and I realized, no, it's not about being same or not being in the same profession. It is about being individuals and how you are interested to conduct your life and all. And
I also know a lot of women couple firms where the people split up because of these professional tensions.
Yes.
And the women all are much happier after splitting up.
And some women give up as well.
Yeah, they do.
So that's also part of it. So let us move to next question. And I would like to understand, because we are talking about having partners, whether from the family or from outside, and also you may be observing our approach to design is very different being woman and not being woman, or let's say men when they approach a project. Maybe you would like to share your experience of the way we approach design, or the way we approach even the business of doing architecture. How is it different in women's case? Of course, in this conversation, it's about how Monolita addresses her projects and business development and all, as compared to your known men in the field. I mean, you can go outside and also look at the pattern. What is it differently that women do in business development and architecture design as well?
This is a very difficult question, because I then start to define who is a woman. Okay. And there is a lot of my natural instincts which I consider masculine. Okay, whether it is just natural to me, or whether because I had a slightly less gendered upbringing, I don't know. But I am quite an aggressive person. I'm quite a vocal person. I am quite a assertive person. Now, these are all things which are considered masculine, right? But on the other hand, I'm also somebody who believes much more strongly in teamwork. I find that I work in teams better. I find that we as women, when we are working as a group of women, we listen to each other better. You know, we work with building things together rather than competing against each other.
Yes.
Right? I find that I find that I have more of my ego issues when I'm working with men than when I'm working with women, because if the man shows a lot of ego, my ego also comes up. Whereas when I'm working in a team of women, I find that the ego factor kind of just gets diluted a lot more. And we might have arguments, we might have differences of opinions, we might have a lot of heated discussion, so to say, about things, but you just simply deal with egos a lot less amongst women. So something that I have
and I think the vocabulary also becomes much comfortable dealing with same gender. Do you realize it, or many things we understand, or we are more sensitive towards?
I think we are more empathetic. That's probably part of the socialization, that we are taught to, like, empathize with the other person. So that's what makes us better listeners. That's what makes us open to another person's
more teamwork person.
Point of view. More importantly, another person's reality. That is something I see with women a lot, where we are more comfortable giving a person space based on that person's reality, which does not need to be rational, logical, right? So, we are less hung up with these kind of things. Oh, this is not the right approach. This is not this thing. All that. We are less hung up about that. We are like, "Arey yaar, matlab, ab hai." It's like that, so there is a bit of space given for human sides of things. Like, I don't know, I mean, something, okay, your kid is ill, or stuff like that. You just become a little more understanding, a little more tolerant about all of these things than, okay, no, this drawing has to come, or this work has to be done. And I think it's a lot of that. It's a lot of being able to see small needs. Like, for example, I find that I'm very sensitive about the women workers on my site, or whether if there are children coming with those women workers. I'm really concerned about where these kids are staying and how they're staying. And, like, I try to immediately see if we can have a toilet put up, or, stuff like that, which not because my male partners are any less, I mean, they're not monsters or anything, they're really nice men,
course
but they
not.
just don't notice it as much.
Yes.
Or even if they notice it, they take it as, oh, it's their problem, nothing.
हाँ,
that
और
I
ऐसा होता आ रहा है.
yeah,
And
I
like,
should not, or I should just not get involved in it, stuff like that. So that is one side of it. The other side of it is, of course, the different bodies, which I find many men, the best of them, don't really understand how different bodies function. And
Yes.
how, like something might just be very hard for a woman to pick up or open or to move, or a child, for a child to lift up something. It might just be very difficult for somebody who's not as tall, not as strong. These kind of things, I mean, like, I use myself as kind of a benchmark of what is capable, and I'm not very good at lifting weights and all that. So I'm like, see, I can't do it. And if you have to kneel down and bring something from below all the while, it's very, very inconvenient. So that's something which is forever influencing my design, the way I work on little details, and how I'm thinking of, okay, when this user is using it, what is the comfort level, what is the height. I have seen those to matter less amongst my male partners.
Is toilets and kitchen, by the way, the kitchen platforms are so high, like in my platform is so
not
high.
just kitchen platforms. I mean, I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about various formats. I mean,
Yes.
those are like details which I don't know how people miss. But I'm talking about even like simple things like a stage design. Okay, the height of the platform. Okay, if you look at any function, any this thing, and you see the stage, and you see most women can't climb on top of that stage.
Yes.
The podium, the height of the podium, most women will be dwarfed by that podium. Right? So there are so many of these very simple everyday things which, most men designers don't notice because they are privileged when it comes to their bodies.
For that matter, the standard books are also written in the.
Oh, absolutely. Not just standard books. Like, for example, I have had such fights over toilets. Not in terms of just toilet inside detail, but number of stalls.
Yes.
Yeah, the number of stalls has been such a central part of what I talk to everybody about. I'm like, guys, you have to understand, even when you are giving equal stalls, you are doing something wrong. Because you're thinking I'm giving 2 WC, 2 WC. You're not even counting the 2 urinals you're giving extra. Okay, so that's actually 4 stalls versus 2. Number 2 is, I'm wearing 4 layers of clothes. You are not.
Yes.
Right?
So space cannot be same.
Yeah, I need that much more time. So my turnover in toilets is much higher than you guys who just have used the entire, 500 years of garment evolution to make things exactly biologically designed for yourselves, where you can just zip and unzip and go. I can't unzip and go because nobody put in that much of R&D into women's design, women's clothes. Women's clothes were always designed to be extremely uncomfortable for women.
Hide to keep
hide and a certain sense of beauty, propriety, everything masculine imposed upon women. And as a result of that, the clothes that we use today are extremely inconvenient for us. Okay, nobody has thought of how to do good pocket designs for women's clothes. So we always have a bag. When we go into a public toilet, there is nowhere for that bag to be put. So we put it on the floor, which is infested with germs. Right? I mean, these are everyday things that we deal with. And the reason why, if you look at any public toilets, you will see always there's a women's queue. Whereas the guys' loo is completely empty.
Yes.
And I actually have ended up going into the gents' loos for some time because I'm like, hello, I'm not going to stand in this queue anymore, So this is a normal, like, look at airport security.
Classic example, actually.
Yeah.
All public buildings for that matter.
Exactly. So public buildings in Kerala building rules, to calculate capacity, it is written that you should calculate total capacity 2/3 men, 1/3 women.
Wow.
Yeah,
They
that
have to work on the design
in the Kerala building rules. So the discrimination starts there.
from there itself.
Yeah,
It's like farmers and construction laborers are considered to be male only. All policies written for
yeah,
me.
yeah. So I was doing this whole project on energy. Okay. So there is this whole thing that the government has, right, which counts how electrification, how do you consider that, so many villages have gotten electrified and all. It's basically 1 point. The electricity has to reach 1 point. What is that 1 point? It is the panchayat office. So I asked these people that panchayat office, at the end of the day, we were talking about lights and fans, right? Whereas there is the village well, where the women come to take out water. And they all have to do physical labor to take out water. And they all stand in queue one by one to take out water, because that is the only water source point. And how come you guys don't think of getting the electrical point to the well to run a pump, so that these women don't have to do this physical labor? And the answer was like, but what is the problem with women spending a little more time? What do they do with their time anyway?
Anyway, they don't do anything. They are at home.
Yeah.
So that's a typical line with most husbands.
Yes. So the entire process of resource allocation, resource planning, thinking of design, serving specific needs is so gender. No?
And it reminds me of your the very word where I was stuck is the blindedness. I think being indifferent is different, but it is more blindedness again.
It's gender blindness. It's blindness. Absolutely. And the electricity goes to the agricultural pumps. It will be, if you look at all where the electricity goes, the homes will be the last point where the electricity goes. Do you know that we have more fuel dispensing stations than LPG gas dispensing stations, despite the fantastic schemes that the government is doing to have every woman apparently all the food that she eats it herself. But we don't have, I think the ratio is 1:3. So 1 LPG station versus 3 fuel dispensing station. And who owns all the vehicles? Again, men. Right? So, I mean, it's not even that the LPG gas is really something that the women are eating all the food or anything. She is being burdened to prepare.
Cooking gas means it's for women.
Yeah, I mean, we eat all the food, we wear all the clothes, everything. We drink all the water. Women are burdened with providing 2 basic needs of humanity. Okay, the third being reproduction. I'm not going there because that's another can of worms. But food and water, right? And food and water, there is no imagination of energy provisioned for doing this work. Okay, and forget about energy as in electricity and all. People don't even quantify the energy that is required to put food on the table, and this goes back to all the
another discussion altogether.
So, because even in the understanding of labor and workforce labor and all, there has never been any understanding that laborer will not be working if the woman is not putting food in front of him.
Yes. That's
using raw materials and making it into something which
every house, by the way.
And that laborer has to consume, and that is the energy they can go and expel out as a labor in workforce, right? So these calculations are not there anywhere.
No, it's not factored at all. Anyway, let me ask you a very interesting and simple question for you. Certain decisions which you may have made in your life, which has brought you what you are today and where you stand today. Maybe life, personal decisions or professional decisions. And do you think people, women particularly, should take note of it to really take strong decisions when it has to be taken? So we would like to know some things from you.
Never stop working.
Okay.
Never become secondary at work. Okay. Never make child rearing just your central responsibility or home your central responsibility. It's a partnership. And do not hesitate to keep on reminding your partner that it's a partnership. Okay, so these were very strong things that I have done in my life, and I'm very glad that I did. I don't mean things have been easy because of that, because it's not easy to go back to work 3 weeks, which is what I did. I went back to work 3 weeks after my delivery, both times. And I worked with my child in the office. Okay, and but the thing is that was great, because now all the employees' children have come to office, and like it's become a standard thing in our office. So I think children are very adjustable if you want to have children. You should not also feel imposed upon to have children, which is another thing that women really face. So I had 2 children 8 years apart, and I'm really, really glad about that decision, because I don't think I could have done justice to being a parent to 2 children as well as a full-time working person the way I like to work. I'm very, very involved with my work. I wouldn't be here if I did not work the way I did in the last, say, 10, 15 odd years or 20 years. And that was only because I paced my motherhood. And I think that's something which is very critical. It's really worked well for me, because I found that the amount of energy I have to do a satisfactory job with my child rearing responsibilities was one child at a time. And this really worked out very well. I mean, I know a lot of people juggle with different things, but I have seen many of my friends do that, who have all been very, very full-time committed professionals, who have gotten their career graph to ascend the way they would like it to be, where they are. They're at the top of their profession. They're comfortable with where they are. I have seen many of them do this 7, 8, 10-year gap between 2 kids. And there is no problem. I mean, we get so much nonsense about how our body will not be capable, this, that, and this is all just nonsense. Okay, do what your body allows you to do. Different people have different ways their body responds, and it doesn't have to do so much with age. I had my second kid when I was 39, and I have had 2 breezy pregnancies. I worked till the last day, and I got back to work like 2 weeks after my delivery, 2 to 3 weeks, I got back to work. And I think it was wonderful that I was working right through. Because of that, I used to see other people having blood pressure, this, that, so many things. I just didn't have any of that.
The best medication, to be honest.
Yeah, it was, and I was active, I was moving, I was going to site, so I did not get my legs swollen up, or, all of those things that happen to women. My blood pressure was consistent, my blood sugar was consistent, and I had 2 very easy pregnancies, very fruitful pregnancies. I enjoyed them, because I also worked out my work life in such a way that I would be carrying my children as long as I'm nursing them, and I would make it very clear to everybody that I'm nursing my kid. And I had no problems with just, lifting my dress up and putting my child in to feed them and all in front of everybody. I just think these kind of things are
it's high time that it has to be.
These things have to be demystified completely. You're feeding your baby. It's just as simple as that,
Period.
I mean, so once you have all that, I managed to breastfeed my children through work. I have, both of us we are very hands-on parents. We believe in doing everything with our children, and between the 2 of us, I believe that we've been there for them all the while, So I mean, I don't think, parenting is a huge decision. You need to take that decision jointly, and you need to take that decision with a clear understanding of the responsibilities you're taking on. So if you are taking on something where you don't have the time, and it goes to men and the women, then you might as well not do it. It's better not to have children if you don't have the time. Because that is also something which I see, Mansee, which really irritates me, because I work with young children, I work with schools, I work with a lot of teachers, and I see that today there is this huge propensity of children being given the smart device by their parents. and just abdicating their
Keep them busy.
responsibility towards parenting. And that is affecting children. I hear from teachers talking about, screen autism and all the extent at which it is kind of, and I think it's really unfair to children.
Children.
If you just don't have the bandwidth to give them time, don't have children.
Yeah.
Even that is better than what you're doing.
That's a decision one has to take at their own levels.
Yeah, and with a lot of sense of responsibility, because it's another person's life you're talking about, right? So so I'm not saying that we have done everything fantastically. That is never the case. Parenting is always something that kind of is a trial and error, and you have to make things work. But I feel that you need to really understand the responsibilities within it. You need to give yourself time for that. You need to be able to be in a position to say that, okay, this is a time I can take for this. And if you don't have that time, don't.
That's true. That's true. So let me ask you a little bit different questions from what we were discussing just now. Kind of projects or people who have influenced your work, and I'm sure it is not about gender in this question, but certainly you must be inspired or influenced by some work. What kind of work really interests you from others, which have had an impact on the way you look at your work?
Oh, that's a this inspiration comes from so many different sides, right?
I can understand.
Yeah. So I am also a very typical architect in many ways. Okay, I enjoy the actual act of designing a project in all its details and everything. So all the architects who work very well with well-resolved spaces and clarity within spaces, very well detailed kind of work, have always been kind of, like something that I really look up to in terms of what you learn out of. But having said that, I think that as a practicing tool, it's very interesting. But as a philosophy, what is more interesting are people who are dealing with the larger issues. Like who are dealing with human behavior and, as I said, the smallest citizen, or now today, I mean, over the last, I'd say about 10 odd years, I have become quite obsessed with not just human behavior, but how nature and human behave. I mean, I always used to have a very huge love for nature within my architecture, but over the last 10 odd years, I've literally become like, it's not even nature for human consumption. It's like nature for nature's self, right? So
that's the people we all need, actually.
Yeah. So people who actually have that ability to allow a rainforest to grow within their architectural project, or people who actually can design intuitively with the interaction of human beings. Like, like one of the things I always used to find very problematic was the way we were taught to design at a plan level. Right? Where you're looking from the top and everybody's like the small little particles on the ground. Whereas actually what you need is eye level, because eye level is where you are
experiencing and moving.
And you're understanding the whole process of the space. So can you just give me 1 minute? Just 30 seconds. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's I have really lost all enchantment of architects who work in a master architectural way from the top, designing little people's lives. That just doesn't interest me anymore. I have completely fallen out of love with grand gestures. I may aesthetically appreciate it at a very, eyeball level, but it doesn't really, I can't emote with it anymore.
It doesn't move you.
Yeah, I can't emote with it anymore at all, because for me now, like, it's about spatial equity, and spatial equity not just for the smallest citizen, but for the smallest animal and the smallest plant. And so like, that's the kind of work which really inspires me and interests me today, whether it is urban design or town planning, or a rainforest regeneration, or a really interesting natural regeneration project or something like that, so again, not names, but more attitudes towards work. So maybe it's few projects of one practice and a few other interventions. Like I was very lucky to study Jan Gehl's that Melbourne city centre design, and that was, it was an eye opener for me as to how you can intuitively get the human intuition. You can actually not intuitively, objectively get the human intuition as an ingredient for your design decisions, which was just amazing. There are other. I've heard him speak. He's a phenomenal speaker. He's a phenomenal teacher. But then there are other projects of his which I really don't agree with. But then this is something that I really, really like. And similar. I study a lot of water rejuvenation projects, because we are in Cochin, which has its own very, very critical water system, right? So water rejuvenation, which I think in India we are really bucking up that entire narrative, is something I study a lot, different approaches all over the world. All this.
Interesting. So that brings me to my penultimate question, and it's a hypothetical situation which you have to imagine, because we all know, and somewhere accept that currently it is a male dominant profession, whether we like it or not, whether even men like it or not, they are more visible in the professional space. Imagine a situation if this was just opposite, and the profession was all women around, and of course few men. Not that we want it to happen, but I would like to live a day when we don't have to discuss gender, and the journey is same for all, as you were talking about why it is longer for women. But let us imagine a situation, because if we imagine that situation, then only we are moving closer to gender equity and all. So imagine that situation and tell me how our buildings and neighborhoods and cities would look than what they are today.
See, it is actually goes back to a book chapter I had written, I think, about 7 8 years back, where I explored why architecture needs to be a feminized profession. Why architecture should not be a masculinized profession, because architecture is a collaborative process. And because of our socialization, we are just better collaborators. Right? We are better team workers. We are better collaborators. We are better conversationalists. We talk to each other. We listen to each other. We come to better decisions together. It is not surprising that some of the best sustainable methodology group activities that are happening in the world, or the societies or the cities or the nations which are doing better in terms of all the right things, like whether it is human equity or sustainability, or building just societies and all, many of them are led by women. Many of them have women right at the center of that conversation. So I think any process does supremely better with feminized systems or feminist methodologies. Okay. And the problem with me saying that is that men hear this as anti-men. Whereas I'm not meaning it as anti-men. Feminism has never been anti-men. In fact, it has done more for men than I think any male structures have done. And I wish majority of men understood that. because I think it is not about women being all the architects or anything. But I do believe that feminist practices within architecture will change the way we think of the footprint of a building on the ground. Because the footprint of a building on the ground does not come just from the person who makes it. It comes from the mason who's working with it, or the woman who's carrying the head load in the concreting process. It's all of us together in that journey, right? And that is what feminist methodologies are about. Right. So more than, again, when I dislike binaries myself.
Same here, to be honest. But I'm still doing this kind of study.
No, it's important because, again, Mansee, let's not hesitate in saying that this discussion on non-binary is also done within feminist dialogues. It is not done otherwise. So let's own that space.
It does not exist. There's no discrimination.
That's exactly. So let's own that space. I wrote a definition for women sometime back in the in the kind of interest of trying to understand who I was, and
please do share with us, huh?
And who I because see, these are not, women and men are not fixed categories, right?
Yes, absolutely.
I keep on thinking of this from my side. From childhood, my voice was considered a problem. I have heard so many people tell me how my voice is not feminine enough, right? Or I laugh too loudly. I have a loud voice. I don't think I have the typical timbre of voice which is considered feminine. So, as I was telling you, I have many instincts within me which can be called masculine. So then who am I? I also have a functional uterus which has had 2 children. Does that make me a woman? Then what about all the women who do not have a functional uterus? Do they become less of a woman?
Yes.
Right. So these are very questions that we have to interrogate ourselves always with. So for the fact that man was taken as the universal human being, and we have spent 5,000 years dealing with that universal human being and ended up where we are, I think it is fair to ask for the next 500 years, where
at least
500. I'm just asking for 500, where the word woman does not represent this normalized human being, but it represents the differences we have.
Absolutely.
And it represents an alliance, a coming together with an understanding of those differences.
Absolutely.
You, Mansee, are not the same as me. I am not the same as you. I'm not the same as somebody else.
Even being woman is not same.
Yeah. But that's what I started the the conversation with, that equality is not sameness. It should never be understood as sameness.
Yes,
and so if we force ourselves to think in that beautiful way, that woman could then be this word which embodies all these differences, right? Then maybe we have a hope somewhere where we understand that there are these beautiful caring instincts which are embodied within that word woman, which is not particular to a species, a female of the species who has a functional uterus, by the way.
Yes.
These caring instincts are there within the male of the species also.
Everybody, for that matter.
Yeah, exactly. So again, I just want to break up these words, and that is what I meant by being very uncomfortable with these binary solutions. I know also women who don't want to have anything to care.
And I did not plan for it.
Yes, I have questioned myself a lot of the times. I think my partner at many levels has far more of that natural caregiving instinct, and I really have to work towards it very, purposefully. So these are if we leave all those, what comes now, all of that, instead we just focus on the idea of care. The idea of care within architecture, the idea of care within spaces, the idea of care within our physical environment, which includes the natural environment. if we look at
And it includes all kinds of gender.
all kinds of gender, all kinds of species.
Species.
I keep on coming back to this point because today we are at, I mean, it's happening all around us, this whole climate catastrophe that we have landed ourselves in. And I do not see a solution in the present mode of patriarchal capitalism that
Yes.
Still, so we consider it like a truth which cannot be broken, but it is broken.
It is already, I mean,
the whole natural environment is telling us that it is completely broken, and we are just still so involved in that myth.
Not accepting yet, by the way.
Denial, complete denial.
Majority.
Yeah, exactly. So that kind of makes us, and I have seen this amongst the best of people. I'm just a little while, few weeks ago, something, and I pointed out, there is a reason why these things have a feminist background. And like, oh, how can you say just because it is feminist, it is better? I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry, feminist is better. I can't discuss with you who know nothing about feminism. I can't discuss this.
But I think it is like a kind of a notion which people carry, that feminism is equal to women and masculinity is equal to men.
Yeah.
That also needs to be discussed more and more.
Exactly.
Because when I was starting this research and doing my literature review, I was also in many thoughts that should I work on, what it is to have a feministic way of architecture. But then I thought that I'm taking a different route altogether, because I was interested in biographies more than really looking at the approach to architecture, because this discussion is nothing to do with architecture. It's about being woman.
Yeah, absolutely.
This needs a serious discussion in the profession, being feministic and masculine. I mean,
I've heard people say things like, the word femme immediately puts me off. I'm like, then you need to start interrogating the misogyny within you.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, it's that simple.
You have to give them all the 3 words, actually.
Yeah, because if you have such a major problem, the moment you hear the word FEM, then I'm sorry, you are coming across as a misogynist, because you are deriding an entire, I would say, a revolution, right? Which you haven't even given a chance. You have not studied it. You have not read any books. You have not listened to anybody. You have not studied the history. Feminism is this one revolution in the world which has achieved more in 70 years than any other revolution. And it has done it mostly bloodlessly.
And that's most important, by the
way. Should be enough to say
no
how
one killed, no one harmed. That's a movement.
Exactly. It is the most valid ism of the world. And if you really interrogate it, you will actually find all the solutions.
And yes, that's
all
true.
The solutions within the paradigm of feminism, because feminism is also one of those which says everything can be me.
Inclusive.
Everything can be me. I mean, all the big names of feminism, they start with debating with each other, even though they are best of friends. They are always debating, always questioning. Rosie Braidotti and Judith Butler, best of friends, they are constantly criticizing each other's works. That is the beauty of that alliance in differences, which Gayatri Spivak talks about so much, right? And she got into so much of a flack last time in JNU, right? Just the recent incident where this Dalit guy, I mean, it's,
If that needs a completely different discussion.
So my point is this. I mean, I think architecture more than any other profession, because we deal with the physical environment. The physical environment is extremely damaged today because of human intervention.
And we have a way of intervention.
So if you look at any of the isms which have really had this long-term impact, there are very core architectural components to it. Okay, so if you look at humanism, which is the ism we are living with, and who never, people just don't question that. It's the beginning and the end of it has been architectural expressions, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or capitalism.
Any civilization for that matter.
Exactly. So if unless and until we understand the politics behind our profession and understand which politics would lead us to actually holistic solutions. And to me, having studied a certain amount, I'm not saying I'm the most well-read, but I try to understand a lot of these things. I find I have very good solutions within this kind of feminized methodology of practice, feminized methodology of imagination of architecture, imagination of what our impact should be on Earth, how we should move towards a care-centric understanding of every act of intervention. If we must, we first need to start understanding whether we should intervene everywhere.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. And so that
it's also
entire
question. How much to intervene, where to intervene, why to intervene. These are all feministic questions.
Absolutely. So that entire process needs a lot of conversations, and we women are very good with conversations.
Actually, in architecture, we are poor in conversation as well.
Yes.
We are not doing it.
We don't converse. We don't. That is one of the major part of the masculinization of this profession.
Just stay silent.
Or we talk in such technical jargon that nobody really understands us.
The common people are not relating with it.
Yeah, I was sitting in a some kind of a jury for a national level competition just sometime back, a couple of months back, and I was amazed at the way my co-juror was speaking because I couldn't understand anything he was saying. Okay, because these words mean nothing. So it's very tiring to hear this constant verbal. I always use bad words.
Sometimes I even feel
I have to keep remembering myself that this is going to be on YouTube. So.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I mean, we can also edit parts if you would not like to, but so far it's going good. And that brings me to the last question, which is very simple, and it's in small 2 parts, and it will be your address. You have given a lot of, do's and don'ts for women as well as other gender people in the profession. Because the profession itself is struggling for its own identity. So the first part of the question is what it is to be in the profession of architecture. So your message is for the younger generation. By the way, we are really struggling to have an identity or a standing of the profession.
Absolutely. I totally get that. And I understand that from the point of view of the path we are showing them, the younger people, because see, this actually follows from the last conversation, discussion we were having, which is about our role as designers of the physical environment. Okay, and unfortunately, we have brought the world to this very cataclysmic point where the realities for young people today are not the same as when you and I exited college.
Yes, that's true. Right? I'm teaching de-development, by the way, these days. Reading a lot about it.
Yeah, I have been working in redevelopment and de-development. Because it all comes to, de-urbanization and de-development, because there are a lot of damages which have been done, which now need to be undone.
That's so true. And again, this is also feministic approach, by the way, when you read through it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is why I was talking about it, because it fits completely within the feministic paradigm where we are never ashamed to say that we have made a mistake, we need to retrace back. Right? We do not have to go headlong.
The realization itself is the first step, that we have done a mistake and we have to think, and we have to sit collectively, think through it, plan for it, do something.
And capture the smallest and the weakest voices, which could be non-human, by the way.
Absolutely.
Right?
Voiceless.
So as people in the practice, or I would even say seniors in the practice, what we are giving to our youngsters is a very, very dated understanding where the reality has changed drastically for them. You and I could never imagine spending 2 years of our college studying online. We would have, think of that reality. Right?
It's horrifying, to be honest. Teaching itself was horrifying for us.
Teaching itself, but we were not, think of 5 years of our precious college life and 2 years you're at home with your parents out of that. I mean, imagine.
Can't imagine that. I don't
Exactly.
think
So
we have that.
it's I think the hopelessness, the frustration they feel
Yes, that we can
as
feel
young
among the
people, as people who have been really misguided by our generation or the generation before us,
I
is very
very
true.
much agree with you on
Yeah,
all these
yeah.
things.
I think we and the generation above us have done a very poor job.
That's true.
Okay, very poor
And
job,
on
and we
that
still
mistake,
do not accept those responsibilities. We still have a way of lecturing younger people without understanding that we do not know shit about their lives.
and they know much more than us, by the way, about what
I
mistake.
don't even want to get into knowing more or less. Their lives are different, Mansee.
Mm.
The way I see my daughter operate, I have stopped telling her what to do for some time because I see the way she negotiates her life. It is completely different from what I understand my life to be.
We were
And
really more privileged, in those days. Much more privileged that way.
we
We
had
had more room to
we had
do
hope.
mistakes.
We
We
had
had
hope.
more room to do
Yeah,
mistakes also, by the way.
yeah, we had hope. We
Mm.
were taught silly things like climate control, which is a farce. I
And
mean,
now
what
it's
climate are we
more
supposed to
climate
control? Yeah,
disaster. They have,
exactly. They have to, if they are lucky, they can be climate responsive. Most of the time, they can just be climate coping, right?
that's true.
So that is I really feel we have very little to tell our younger generation other than sorry.
At least apologize to them.
Yeah,
If
that's
not,
what, other than saying sorry. Sorry, we messed up. Sorry, we don't know enough. Sorry, we are really stupid. And sorry, we are leaving this mess for you.
that's true.
I think that's all I would like to say to the younger people. I don't think we are capable of telling them what to do. No.
That's okay. That then the last question is equally, I think, going to resonate what you just said about being in the profession. Because my last question or request to you to message the younger generation is how to really engender this profession. I mean, or maybe reduce the gap in what we have felt in 20, 30 years. In my case, maybe that they should be able to what both all genders should be doing so that the profession itself is engendered and we live a day in our profession where we don't have to discuss who is a man, who is a woman, or who is other gender, and we just focus on we have a huge task on hand. What should we do to engender it?
I think we are losing so much of energy in this because we are working with such levels of inequity when actually the real challenges are elsewhere. It's really important that we come together to come up with really resolve solutions for situations which are way beyond our control today, right? So we can't afford to have groups of our population not being able to achieve their full worth.
Yes.
We need each and every mind, we need each and every ounce of everyone's creativity to really engage with the present realities that we have, isn't it? So I would say it's a matter of survival. If we want to survive as a species, we need to really smarten up. Okay, and we need to smarten up really, really fast and realize that let's stop warring with each other and understand that we need every hand on deck, so to say, which means every man, every woman, every creative thought on deck. So how to engender? I don't know. Mansee isn't. That's what I started with, saying that first you have to question your own privileges. Okay, all of us have our own privileges. If we are in an architecture college, we are privileged.
Yes,
already,
that's
right. So we need to first identify those. We need really to be able to see people who are lesser than us. Lesser than us in the sense not lesser, but like have less than us, right? And
yes.
once we start doing that, we can actually understand the inequity of all of it. If you are invested in truth, if you're invested in what is right, you should be able to see that there is something horribly wrong with us. First of all, in the human species, 10% taking it all, and then the human species taking it all. I mean, there are major problems. I mean, I keep on having these thesis students come up to me with them doing this biopark and this and that, and it all becomes tourism.
Yes.
Hell, No. If you have the opportunity, please create an Amazon forest, because that is what the world needs today.
That is what is
Okay.
required.
And for that, you need to keep the human beings out of that space. Right.
I think
So
that is also the education of until
yeah. That's why I said sorry. I'm not blaming them, but I'm saying that the mindset has to change from there. It has to change from understanding. I think it is again absolutely within feminism to actually be able to see every species as an equal, right? And if you are capable of ridding your mind of this humanist lenses, and then your masculinist lenses and your patriarchal lenses, they're one by one, then you actually see that even that plant or the bird or the reptile or the snake also has a place, and we as human beings are taking away those places, right?
Yes.
And we as human beings are taking away those places. Then we as more moneyed people are taking away some more spaces from the poor people, and then amongst them the men are taking away more spaces, and then the white man is taking away more spaces. It's like
We have to start delayering.
It's like a step ladder, right? Of inequities, where you need to understand, especially as us brown people, it should be easy for us to understand at some levels, because we are not at the top of the ladder, right? So once we identify what we don't get, we can actually identify what other people have not got, which we have, right? And then leverage our privileges to make sure that we are talking about equity, because equity actually matters to all of us.
Yes,
we are not going to survive as a human species if we don't understand this, that we are a companion species in this world.
We are just one of them, huh?
One of them. We are just one of many hundreds, and everybody has an equal, and we should not drive ourselves to one corner where we get annihilated. I mean, I'm talking about it from very selfish interest, really. It is the human species which is going to become extinct, and the world will heave a sigh of relief saying, oh, thank God that parasitic species is gone. You know, that's what we are looking at. So for our own survival, we need to understand our position in the whole structure. So I think that in itself is a process of engendering, feminizing, understanding our status within the whole thing. I think it's part of that much larger narrative, really.
Absolutely. So I'm done with my questions, Monolita, and this is the time. If you have any question for me, you may ask, or else I will do the vote of thanks.
No, I'm absolutely fine. I think I took a lot of your time.
No, I like it to flow as a conversation, because this is where we can capture some of the expressions. And you have been working on gender and inclusion. You have dedicated your life for that. So it is definitely worth listening to your thoughts and ideas on how to really address these issues, because unless
I think colleges, we need to bring discussions on not on gendering of architecture, but actually feminism. I mean, I find the word gendering and all a cop out today. It's a cop out. It's a cop out because people don't like the word feminism.
That's true.
So I think we need to actually discuss.
In fact, the whole profession needs a lot of debates and discussions, which is not happening.
I consider men above 50 to be dinosaurs, and I tell them on their face that they're going to probably become extinct. That's how it's going to be, because they did not evolve fast enough. Anybody who doesn't evolve fast enough dies, right? So
that's
it's
so
like
true.
that.
I mean, evolution is so important, and I think again it's a fundamental thing of talking about feminism. So with these words, I think we can decide to bring an end to the conversation. Otherwise, it is lovely to keep on going about it. But definitely some other day, a discussion on feminism and approach to really take care of the society as well as the planet, especially even if we are selfish enough to take care of human beings for that matter, for our own existence. So thank you so much, Monolita, for this enlightening interaction. As always, I'm learning a lot from each one of you. May you remain an inspiration to others and many generations to come. And I'm grateful to have learned about your endeavors and also the way you look at life. I wish you best to continue what you are best at, and also keep this fire on, because we really need people like you. And I do hope that you will keep me posted about what you do. And we
Sure.
shall continue at Women in Architecture with our conversation with more women in architecture, with the
Yes.
very idea to really understand where do we stand today in the society and where do we wish to go. Not that we have a target to go anywhere, but just to understand that there are different ways to look at life. There are different ways to look at the profession. And here is a community which can offer alternatives to the mess we are creating in the society. So thank you
Absolutely.
so
I
much.
think that's the central role of all our conversations must be that this whole understanding of co-living, cohabiting this planet together in a care format. I think that is the principal role we as so-called women
Can bring
should
forth.
embody. Yeah,
Yeah, thank you.
absolutely.
Thank you so much. Please take care of
Thank you.
yourself, and we see each
Same.
other soon.